All righty. Okay, I am calling this meeting of the Public Safety Communications Task Force to order. It is 11:15 on November 20th, 2024, and I'm Barbara Neal. As a reminder, the meeting's being recorded, and that recording will be up on the task force webpage following the meeting. So let's start with our usual roll call of task force members. If you could verbally acknowledge your presence when I call your name. Jen Morrison.
I'm here.
Ron Kumitz.
I am here.
Morning. Jim Mack.
I'm here.
Excellent. Okay. And that is it so far for task force members. Also joining us today is Emily Mullaney as our administrative support. Thank you, Emily. And our project management partners, Rick Burke and Dom Arcuri from Televate.
Morning, everyone.
Morning, everyone.
And from Mission Critical, I see Jason Malloy and who am I missing? Scott Neal.
Morning.
Morning. And Mike Dungis has joined us. Good morning, Mike.
Good morning.
All right. I do not see, Emily, correct me if I'm wrong, I do not see any members of the public on the call.
That appears to be correct.
Okay. All right, then we will move on to approval of the agenda. So the agenda was distributed to task force members by email. It's also available on the website. Do task force members have any changes to the agenda? Okay. Hearing nothing, then we'll consider the agenda approved and move on to approval of the minutes. This would be from the October 30th regular meeting number 37. Are there any changes needed to these minutes?
I'll make a motion to approve the minutes as presented.
Thank you, Mike.
Seconded.
Seconded. Thank you. Any discussion? Okay. All in favor of approving the minutes from October 30th, raise your hand or indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Thank you, Ron. Minutes are approved from October 30th. We have now have a public comment period, and I see Senator Renner has joined us. Senator, we already went through the public introductions or the introductions. If you'd like to introduce yourself and offer any public comment, this is a good time for that.
Thank you and good morning. Irene Renner. I serve on the Joint Information Technology Oversight Committee, and have been interested all along in what you folks are up to, but no particular comments today. Thank you.
Okay, thanks for joining us. Alrighty, let's move on then to project updates from Televate and then Mission Critical. So Dom, go ahead.
Okay, thank you, and good morning, everyone. Things have been very busy with the task force and project team over the last few weeks. We are proceeding to plan for the workshops. We've identified the workshops that we intend on holding. I have identified candidate attendees for each of those specific focused workshops. We have one planned for later this week. The lessons learned workshop will be taking place on Friday, and we expect to schedule the remainder of the workshops during the weeks of December 9th and December 16th. We also have the last community listening session, which actually was rescheduled to December 6th, and that'll be the one that'll focus on those attendees that may need languages other than English or additional language support. We also have the MCP team primarily is working diligently on putting together the inventory and assessment report. That is one of the key deliverables of the project, and that is ongoing. We have rescheduled that delivery of that document. It is scheduled for delivery via draft on the 29th of this month, so a week from Friday. we expect to receive the draft. MCP has already shared an outline and some of the preliminary content with some of the project teams, so we have had a chance to review that and comment on it. We expect it to be a quite substantial document with a lot of information, and we'll have a quick turnaround to review that. You may know that the 29th will be day after Thanksgiving, so on Black Friday we're receiving the draft, and we're committed to reviewing that and turning around comments within a week. And then MCP will update that and publish the final document in the middle of December. Based on that, we are also adjusting schedule for the system planning report, which is a primary report for the project. We are planning to get 2 draft sessions involved, or incorporated, I should say, so that we can have a mature draft to distribute for public comment and comment from the legislatures. So we expect to have a first draft in January and then a second draft turned around by the end of January, so that we will have the majority of the February timeframe for extended review, again, by the public, legislature, other first responders, et cetera. So some major updates to the schedule, but added in additional comment and review period there. So we'll want to make sure we have sufficient input from all interested stakeholders during that period. I believe that's the majority of the work that's going on. The cybersecurity assessments are also ongoing. I do want to point that out, and maybe MCP has a little bit more detail to provide. But that's what I have. Happy to answer any questions from task force members.
Thank you, Dom. I will just add now that when that draft comes in on the 29th of November, we will get that out to task force members who should be prepared to have a discussion about it on the December 4th task force meeting. So just for your planning purposes, that's when you'll start to see things come in. And any questions for Dom? Okay. Jen, do you have anything to add here?
Just to add on the cyber assessments, the final total that came in, there were 17 agencies that did submit the information for that, and there was one agency that opted not to participate because they were concerned with the possibility that security information may get released as a result. So it's just a little bit under half of the agencies participated in that.
Great.
Yeah,
Thank you, Jason.
I think that this issue is going to become really front and center for the task force in the coming months. It's going to, obviously, this inventory report is very different from the planning document, the report, articulating options for a path forward and what MCP has found. That's a different document. The inventory report contains a lot of information that agencies are not going to want shared publicly, and for very good reasons. It's going to be a challenge to balance what we can and can't release from the inventory report. Obviously, the real meat and potatoes, which is the path forward and recommendations document, is going to be less sensitive, one would imagine. There may be some redactions required, but I just want to set the table of expectations that task force members are going to receive an inventory report that for the short term is going to be a draft and B, not to be forwarded and not to be shared publicly. And until we determine and our legal teams determine which portions of that very technical document can be released publicly. So just want to keep that real clear that this is not a document that the task force is authorized to share. And we do have a quick turnaround time for the inventory report. We'll get to the issue of the big, let's call it the big report for now later, but I do anticipate there will be people who want to have unfettered access to these documents, and we're going to have to apply the correct legal analysis and protect agency and state information as appropriate to defend against would-be saboteurs and others. So
Excellent. Correct. All right. Any
So
other?
may I ask you a question?
Sure, Rick, go ahead.
So with that said, with a delivery date of next week for the report, how best to document that report and to share it? Because once it's shared, it could be open records request. So we're going to
Well,
need
we
some
will-
guidance on how to
we-
document it now.
right. We will get open records. We will get public records requests for it. And our team is already examining, absent seeing the content of it, they can't make final answers, but they're taking a look at whether or not there's a lot of potential paths forward, Rick, is the short answer.
Sure.
One could be that the entire document is withheld and determined to be confidential and subject to the exemptions in the Vermont Public Records Act.
Right. Mhm.
There are other, but there's obvious ways, there's obvious groups that we need to share it with eventually, right? So are we going to need to create a properly impaneled group that has permission to see the document, use the document, but not share it so that they can make decisions around the final report and the path forward and what investments need to be made where? So it's going to be a tricky balance that we've got folks, working on it anticipatorily, but for the short term for this body, the report is confidential. It is in draft form, so it is not a final form, and it is the property of mission critical partners with input from our stakeholders across the state that we have implored to cooperate with us so that we can fulfill the mission that the legislature gave us. We cannot be sloppy and turn around and let that information that may be sensitive become public if it's potentially injurious to those agencies or to the state. So my word of caution for the inventory report, and I'm only talking about this very technical document, is that everybody understands it's a draft. It is confidential at this point until our legal teams tell us something else. And we will have to figure out what the future, once that's a final report, how do we allow the right people access to it in a way that is productive and gets us towards the end goal without it becoming something that we find on the internet and could be harmful.
So this first draft should be marked every page at the footer, confidential, state of Vermont confidential information draft. I mean, we want to be sure that we document it carefully so that we give MCP guidance on how to deliver it and what they should put. And I'd suggest with what you just said, Jen, that, draft, state of Vermont confidential information or whatever, or however best to do it. But I'd say that first draft should be marked accordingly.
Yep.
Yeah, so Rick, currently, to address that, currently the document has a draft watermark on it. If the state would so like us to also add, confidential or some other language that's taken from the Vermont Public Records information, if they would like us to put that in the footer, we can certainly do that.
Okay.
Barb and I'll get back to you on that, Jason.
Okay.
Yeah.
And just one more question, if I could. That document is going to be, I don't know, I'll just exaggerate, 200 megabits. You know, I mean, I don't know how big it's going to be, but it's going to be sizable, and it's probably not going to be. We're probably not going to be able to receive it via email for everyone. So you know, the logistics of how to post it, where to put it. I mean, I think just be thinking about that from MCP's part so that we can see. We already looked at it. It's hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of pages, and that didn't include Scott's maps yet. So those are going to be many megabytes, megabits of data. So just the logistics of delivering it needs to be thought through.
Yeah,
We
so
can-
if I could just jump in on it real quick, Rick. So I'm
Yeah.
actually looking at where we're at right now. It's at 679 pages,
Mhm.
and it's not yet completed. So to your point, it's going to be huge. Now, not to be so intimidating, there's a lot of appendices with very lengthy tables, and there's a lot of charts and graphs and maps and things in there. So it's not going to be an 800-page document of text. But we have an FTP server. We can provide a download link to whoever needs that document, and you can download it on your computer. Obviously, we can't email it. And just one thing, Jen and Barb, just for consideration as you're doing your legal review, and just to note here. So there's going to be a lot of information about critical infrastructure in there specific to your radio sites. And as
Yes.
you're talking to your attorneys, the information that's there is technically publicly available through the FCC if somebody is sophisticated enough to be able to go in and do that. But I would argue against disclosing that, even though it is technically publicly available, because we're going to be giving all that information, coordinates, everything in this
Yeah.
report. So I would argue, don't make it easy for somebody. You know, that stuff, in my opinion, needs to be redacted and withheld. And if somebody wants to go to the trouble or go through the FCC and get it, you know, figure out how to do it on their own. But that's just my food for thought there when you're talking to your attorneys about it.
Yep. We absolutely understand those concerns and deal with it pretty much daily at the 911 board. So I'll have the same line of thinking in those conversations. So so it sounds like we're going to have a link to the document. So when it's available, we will we're going to have to make sure we know how to distribute that link because there won't be anyone around for support, right? On the day after Thanksgiving.
So we can make the link accessible to anybody and send it in an email. You can just forward that email to whomever you need to, and that link should provide download. You know, the downside of that is, without specifying, you know, an email address, is that you have to be very careful with that link and make sure it only stays in certain hands.
Yeah,
I would not do that.
right. We'll do it differently. Let's talk,
Yeah.
Jen, and
Let's talk offline
Okay.
about how to do it.
Yeah.
But if the document remains on your server and does not get downloaded into, say, my files, then there is nothing subject to a public records request because I am not the keeper of the document.
Okay,
So
then we can discuss options on how to accomplish. Yeah, because generally these are download links where you would physically download the document. But we can talk
Right.
about other options for how to do that.
Well,
Absolutely.
and you know, whatever. It doesn't matter if it's on my computer or not, other than it's a massive document. At the end of the day, we have to figure out this issue of how much of, if any, of that inventory report will become public. And, you know, it is a constant balancing act, and we always strive to be as transparent as possible. It's going to be a very, very heavy lift for our team to redact a document of this size with this much technical information in it. So even if we are able to make portions of it public and redact other portions, it's going to take far more than the usual 3 days with a 10-day extension
Yeah.
for my team to handle this. So I'm just making sure that expectations are clear, that we will be as transparent as we can be. And then in the long run, there's the bigger question of how do we find a safe, secure way to share the technical parts that would be redacted for the public with the right people. And we're going to obviously have to get some guidance from the legislature as to how to do that, because what's the next step after we deliver the goods that we've been assigned to deliver. So questions that we'll tackle as they come, but I just want to make sure that everybody's aware that this is going to be a bit of a booger, the whole public records part of this inventory report.
Thanks for the
Excellent. Okay.
discussion.
Anything more on this? Or any of the project updates? Okay. Okay. Moving on then, I think that we have covered this already with Dom's update. The next agenda item, though, is the community listening session and subject-specific workshops update. Dom did discuss that we are in the planning process for the workshops. There is one scheduled with certain invited members this Friday for the lessons learned. And a few more workshops are in the works for the December timeframe. And Dom also reviewed the next community listening session, which is December 6th, 11:30. The only thing I have to add there is that outreach and coordination of that listening session is really in the hands of the DPS communications team. So is there anything else on community listening sessions or the workshops that people want to discuss or have questions about?
I just want to point out that there are the workshops that we are doing, which are specifically intended to be small group, candid discussion. These are not public meetings. And that there's also, in addition to the by topic, so the workshops have been set up by topic, right? Lessons learned from prior efforts at consolidation, governance, funding, operations. There's about 6 or 7 workshops that are topical. We are also extending an invitation for a workshop that is specific to people who have shown great interest in our work. That would include Senator Renner, Mr. Whitaker, and Mr. Cheney, so that they will have an opportunity to weigh in on all of those topics in one meeting, as opposed to having to attend 6 or 7 different meetings and perhaps taking up bandwidth that different invited guests who don't come to these meetings need to talk to us about. So there will be one that is more of a global, because these are folks who have a much deeper understanding of the topic and have followed it for a long time. But that's the landscape of the workshop schedule. I think that's it with the third listening session for right now.
May I chime in, please?
Sure.
For Senator Renner and for Kim Cheney and Steve Whitaker, the tentative meeting date is for the December 6th, and I'm going to send out a poll, to determine which timeframes on that date are going to work best. But that's basically just giving the senator a heads up that an invitation requesting a time availability would be sent out to the 3 of those individuals. Thank you.
Perfect.
Thank you.
Thanks, Rick. Okay, anything else on workshops or listening sessions? Okay, moving on then. Is there any new business for today? Hearing nothing. We have our next meeting, regular meeting is scheduled for December 4th. As I mentioned, you'll want to be prepared to discuss the draft report that we're going to see. If there's nothing further, we can take a motion to adjourn.
Just one question, Barb, on the status reports. We have been developing and distributing status reports every 2 weeks, coincident with the task force meetings, generally on the Monday before. So since we skipped a week now, I guess we'll adjust the status reports as well to be synchronized again with the task force meetings. Does that make sense?
I think it does, if that's not too heavy a lift.
No, so what that'll mean in the immediate time frame is that where we would have had a status report done next Monday, we're gonna skip a week and make it done following Monday. It'll be just before so it'll be on December 2nd, before the task force meeting on the 4th.
That makes sense to me. And I see some nods from task force members, so I think we're good.
All right.
Excellent. Thank you, Dom.
Thank you.
Okay. Shall we adjourn?
I'll make a
Make a
motion to adjourn.
Thank you.
Second.
I'll let Emily sort that out, but we have a motion and a second. Okay, great. All in favor of adjourning for today, raise your hand or indicate by saying aye. I
Aye.
see hands, and I hear Ron and Mike, and we are adjourned. Thank you very much. And oh, by the way, happy Thanksgiving next
Happy
week.
Yes.
Thanksgiving,
Yeah, happy
everyone.
Thanksgiving to
Happy
everyone.
Thanksgiving,
Happy
everyone.
Thanksgiving to everyone.
I know.
Can't wait
All
for the
right.
big report. What a treat.
I
Something to
know.
be really thankful for.
Who needs
Will
to go
be.
shopping on Friday?
No.
Just
Turkey
don't have too much
sandwiches
turkey, you'll be able to
and
eat it
inventory
all.
report.
That's
That's
right.
right. Thanks, everybody.
All right,
Thank you.
guys.
Have a great
Bye.
day.
Bye-bye.
Bye.